This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is November 17th, 2022. Jonathan Osborne here. As always, I am joined by my co-host, the man with a new mic, Luke Sylvia. Luke, what's up, bro?
New mic. We'll get to this, but shout out to the patrons.
Big time.
This doesn't happen without y'all. Really appreciate you guys. Going from my old mic to this one, I feel like I actually have a podcast now. So that's good. But yeah, Jonathan,
You mean the free mic that you got that I gave you, right?
The free one. Yes. Yeah. The hand-me-down.
Disrespectful. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a hand-me-down, but you know.
We had a lot of good moments on that mic, but yeah, I guess that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at this point in the week, Jonathan, I thought I'd be doing better than I am in regard to my Magic related self. So I don't know. We'll get into it, but at some point you just kind of throw your hands up, and it is what it is.
Tonight was definitely a downer. We're gonna get to all of that. Are you drinking a Celsius, by the way?
Yeah.
Those things make me feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack. For whatever reason, I cannot drink Celsius. But I know a lot of people are big on Celsius.
The orange is my favorite by far. It's good.
Respect.
It's got much better than like an orange Gatorade, to be honest. Like in terms of flavor, I don't like the orange Gatorade that much, but the orange Celsius, I like it a lot.
All
Celsius
right,
sponsor the show, thanks.
Oh boy, yeah. Tonight we'll talk about the games. Definitely a downer, but Hito Turkoglu threw us the follow on Twitter, so I'm actually doing okay tonight. Like that really lifted my spirits quite a bit. Feels good. All right, let's talk. We got a couple of things here before we get to. We actually have a lot that we want to talk about before we get to the games. Just to be quite honest with you guys, the games that we're going to talk about weren't all that fun. So we're going to kind of push those to the back of the show, admittedly. Before we get into that, though, coming up on Friday, we are again partnering with the Orlando Magic and Michelob Ultra for another watch party. The one to start the season was incredible. It was tons of fun. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. But we're going to have another one this Friday at Ollie's in Orlando on 3400 Edgewater Drive for the game where the Magic are going to be in Chicago to take on the Bulls and our old pal Nikola Vucevic. So that game starts at 8 o'clock. So we'll be at Ollie's starting at 7:30. There's going to be Michelob Ultra specials. There's going to be Michelob Ultra bucket specials. So make sure that you guys come through. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, 3400 Edgewater Drive in Orlando at Ollie's starting at 7:30. Let's go through our midweek state of the Magic, Luke. So we do this, on Thursdays. We do this on Mondays where we take a look at really the whole week. But midway through the week here, the Magic are currently 0-2 on the week. They are now 4-11 on the season. They're in 13th place in the Eastern Conference. They have the 5th worst record in the league. After tonight, the Magic have an offensive rating of 110.2. If you're not familiar with offensive rating or defensive rating, it's just offensive rating is how many points the team scores per 100 possessions. Defensive rating is how many points the Magic give up per 100 possessions. So they have an offensive rating of 110.2, which ranks 21st in the NBA. They have a defensive rating of 113.5, which ranks 24th in the league. Their overall net rating is negative 3.3, which right now is good for 25th in the league. So having the 5th worst record in the league, you have 25th net rating, pretty much about where you should be. They're still 4th in free throw rate. That's a lot of it has to do with Paolo Banchero. We all know that he's been out almost the last handful of games here, but the Magic are still sustaining a relatively high free throw rate, which is really encouraging for a young team that at times struggles to score the basketball. Getting to the free throw line is always going to help with that. Looking at the injury report, Cole Anthony with the torn oblique, Markelle Fultz with the broken toe, Jonathan Isaac coming back from the ACL, Gary Harris coming back from the torn meniscus, Mo Wagner with the mid-foot sprain. All of those guys remain out. We had a couple of guys join the injury report, unfortunately, over the course of the last week and actually today. Paolo Banchero has now missed the last 4 games due to a left ankle sprain. He's currently day-to-day. So a lot of people including myself, saw that he was trending from questionable to a game time decision. I think that was for Friday's game against the Phoenix Suns. So I thought, okay, maybe he'll play. He was ruled out of that game, practiced on Saturday, and then did not practice Sunday, and then did not play Monday against the Charlotte Hornets. And then he was also out Wednesday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jamal Mosley has said the foot is still sore. So he went through the entire practice on Saturday. Must have been sore on Sunday, I'm guessing. Probably was still sore on Monday because Mosley said on Tuesday after practice that Paolo was still sore. So he's still battling back from that left ankle sprain. And then today, we heard that Wendell Carter Jr. was going to be a game-time decision, essentially, against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He has a right plantar fascia strain. The injury report before the game started, he was ruled out. And then after the game, when asked about Wendell, Mosley basically said this is something that Wendell has been fighting for a little bit now, and just needed to get some treatment and needed to miss the game. So he's also day-to-day, so we'll see what happens with him on Friday. We didn't talk about this on the last episode because I'm an idiot and I forgot that we needed to talk about it. But now we've actually seen the city jerseys. We've seen the city floor. Luke, just give me overall thoughts on the theme. What do you think of the jerseys? What do you think of the floor?
The best part of the entire rollout is the court, in my opinion. You can't go wrong with the logo being all black, the court, the outside of the court, the paint, I believe, like everything. That's the theme, right? And it's kingdom oriented, and you can kind of appreciate that as a Magic fan, that the Magic are leaning into kingdom and all this kind of stuff. So I can appreciate it. I'm more about the look than I am the narrative of like really why we're doing it. I'm not huge on the font, but I'm huge on the jersey. I will say that I do really enjoy the jersey. Just like I said, you really can't go wrong with a black jersey in general. You've got the navy on like the trim, right? And I enjoy it. But like I said, the court for me is the part that I love the most, and I'm glad we're away from orange. And that's a jersey I would rock for sure.
I think the floor is probably the best part of the entire thing. Now, that's not to say that I don't like the other elements of it, because I truly love everything about it. I shouldn't say everything. I do wish the navy blue was Magic blue. I'll still hold on to that belief. But the thing for me is, we watched a 48-minute game tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and until you mentioned the navy, I forgot it's even on the jersey, because on TV, unless it's like a close-up, you really can't tell, So it's not like it sticks out and it ruins the jersey. I just, it's
I'm sure once they start
preference
sweating, it gets to be dark as well. You know what I'm saying?
True. Yeah, true.
It becomes a little dark and becomes kind of blending in the jersey there.
That makes sense. I'll buy that. But in terms of like the way it's being marketed, the kingdom on the rise, the fact that they're leaning into the Magic name, this kind of almost like medieval motif, like this font, across the chest. A lot of people hate it. They think it looks like New Orleans. I'll ride with that. Like, I'm okay. It does look like New Orleans, but I still like it. I don't think it looks bad. The thing that does look bad, again, we've talked about this, is the fact that it's still the same numbers that we use on all of the other jerseys. Like, we've talked about this. Hate to have to make this point again, but if you're going to go that bold with the font across the chest, you got to switch the numbers up for me. That's just kind of personal preference there. And then, I love the fact that they're leaning into the Magic name, because if you don't, then why are we called the Magic? Like, if you're not going to lean into the name, we're just a team that has pinstripes and has stars in our logo. If you're not going to lean into it, then what's the point? Bring back the Wizard, and not the Washington Wizards, which I still don't understand. You had an NBA team, and then you will name the Magic, and then you allow the Bullets to change their name to the Wizards. Like, to me, that just didn't make a ton of sense, but it kind of is what it is. I guess across other sports, like the NFL, you've got the Seahawks, you got the Cardinals, you got the Falcons, you got the Eagles. Like, they got all kinds of stuff going on. So, yeah, it is what it is. I wish that they wouldn't have done that. But yeah, bring back the Wizard, like really lean into it. I don't care. Like the stuff that we saw last week, and pun intended, because it was stuff, the mascot doing like the magic tricks like during the timeout or whatever. I'm all for that. Let's lean all the way into the magic. Some people think it's cheesy. I think it's really cool. Like I'm into like the vintage, like a lot of people are. It's becoming a lot more popular, but specifically like vintage Orlando Magic shirts and hats. If you look at some of the old shirts with like wizards on them, they're insane. They're really, really cool looking. So just lean back into that. I would absolutely love that. But yeah, the court is amazing. Kind of like the chainmail look in the paint. I'm a big fan of that. The black trim all the way around. The floor has kind of this kind of gray wash to it, like you said. The big black Magic logo in the middle of the floor. I think it looks great. I'm excited to get my hands on it. What I'm trying to decide is which player's jersey that I get, because the statement jersey that I have coming is Paolo. I already have a Franz Wagner jersey. I have Markelle Fultz. I have Jonathan Isaac. I'm thinking of going Jalen Suggs. I don't have a Jalen Suggs jersey. It's funny that between the two of us, you're the one that has the Jalen Suggs jersey. I know that you have since had a change of heart recently.
It's true.
But yeah, it's funny that I don't have a Suggs jersey, but I really like the city jerseys. I really like the floor. I like the marketing. I just really like it. It's much better than the orange. And like I said, they can lean into the Magic stuff as much as they want, and you won't really hear too many complaints from me. Okay. The last thing, and this is going to be kind of the biggest part of this conversation, I think, before we start breaking down the games of the week so far, there's just like, I don't even know how to, it's frustration. It's like, it's almost a little bit like toxic. Like there's an animosity and a hostility and almost like a resentment amongst the fan base right now when you start talking about the Orlando Magic. And it's for a few different reasons. I think really, Luke, everyone's just tired of losing. Like for the most part of the last 10 years, we've been losing. Like you have 2 seasons where you make the postseason, where you had a really special run in 18-19, and you beat Toronto in game 1, and the next year you beat the Milwaukee Bucks in game 1. But we all know that the team wasn't really going anywhere. It was just fun to have any resemblance of success at that time. But for the most part, the team just hasn't been good. And we looked at how talented this team was going to be. And then once you see how good Paolo is already, it's like this team could possibly even exceed expectations. If you would have told me when we were talking about, maybe the Magic are competitive to the play-in, or maybe they make the play-in, or maybe they're close at the end of the year, if you told me that Paolo was going to be this good, I would have said I just would have said the playoffs. I would have said that, and I would have been wrong, right? We know that things have not gone our way so far to start the season, but there's a few things going on. There's the RJ Hampton drama, right? I think we'll start there. Obviously, plenty of injuries, like a crazy amount of injuries right now. And then people always have this sneaking suspicion that because of Victor Wembanyama, because of Scoot Henderson, because of like the Thompson twins, these really incredible prospects that are set to be at the top of this next summer's draft, that the team might just be purposely losing games. And I can't lie, it did feel that way last year. I do think there was something to that. There may be something to it this year. I really don't know, but I want to have the conversation, Luke. Let's start talking about RJ Hampton though, and just kind of what are your thoughts on this whole situation with RJ?
I mean, you've heard kind of where I came from. A couple episodes I laid it out there, and I said they didn't pick up his option, and all of a sudden we're seeing that he's just not getting the minutes that we think RJ Hampton deserves. And it stinks to see it play out, because he has by far and away proven himself as honestly one of the better guards on this team. He has become,
as of right now,
of course, yes, but he has become the go-to, like in terms of, if you tell me like, Luke, who on the team is like a make something out of nothing type of player, it's RJ Hampton. Shot clock winding down, RJ Hampton gets into ISO with a few seconds left on the shot clock. I feel like he's able to knife his way through the paint and at least put up a floater or something there in the middle of the paint and make a shot go in. And he did it tonight, I think. I don't know if it was when the shot clock was expiring, but the play completely broken down. Nobody was moving off ball. RJ Hampton took matters into his own hands, got to the hoop, and was able to make the shot. So it's like, those are the type of things I'm like, man, he really can. He is very capable of making something out of nothing. And I don't think it was the case last year. So to see that happen, it just really irritated me. If we look, Jonathan, at his last, I'll go through the list, Jonathan, of his games. We'll start at the beginning of the year, and I'll just list minutes played for RJ Hampton in those games. So game number 1, well, I'll just go down the list, like I said. 11 minutes, 16 minutes, 9 minutes, 7 minutes, 24, 21, 20, 20, 17, 8, 10, 56, 10 minutes, 56 seconds, and 10 minutes, 21 seconds, and then tonight played 10 minutes as well. If you will see, there's a pattern there, Jonathan, right? Like when he was playing 24 minutes, I believe that we were just simply extremely thin at the guard position at that point. And then you have basically 3 20-minute games in a row, 17 minutes. And then all of a sudden he's playing 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, like his last 4 games. You just cannot convince me. And it is exactly what I said a couple shows ago, Jonathan. You can't convince me that it's not just a business thing. We didn't pick up his option. So we're playing him on a minute restriction. That's what it feels like. And I think that's what it is.
So just to give folks who may not be as up to speed on the situation and what we're talking about, so far on the season, now through what are we? We're 4-11, so that's 15 games now. RJ Hampton, at least coming into tonight, was averaging almost 15 minutes a game. He's played in 12 of the Magic's 15 games or 14 games before tonight. I'm looking at Basketball Reference right now. I don't think they're updated with tonight's stats, but was averaging 6.8 points per game, 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 0.7 steals, 0.2 blocks, 1.4 turnovers. Has been shooting 50% from the floor, 50% from behind the arc. Just really playing well. And excuse me, that's 1.5 rebounds. Rebounds are a little bit down this year. But in every opportunity that RJ Hampton has been given so far to get minutes, like you mentioned, he has a tendency to make something out of nothing, whether that's breaking guys down off of the dribble and getting to the rim, whether it's hitting a spot up 3, whether it's hitting a 3 off the dribble. Like RJ Hampton has been making things happen. Sometimes that's chase down blocks. In certain situations, we've seen him make big plays on both ends of the floor. And where it was the case last year with RJ Hampton, where he would have stretches of just like not looking like an NBA player, quite frankly. And we go back to July, the beginning of July, when he's playing in Summer League, and we expected RJ to come in as now a third-year player and dominate in Summer League, and he looked terrible. And a lot of us were questioning, like, is RJ Hampton even an NBA player at this point? And whatever has happened between then and preseason and now into the regular season, he's just looked completely different. If you would have told me a year ago that at some point this season I'd be begging for RJ Hampton minutes, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. But that's the case. And it's not sometimes, it's not every couple of games. It's every time that RJ steps on the floor, he looks great and he's making things happen. So the question has just become, what is going on with RJ Hampton? What is going on with his minutes? We know that he left his agency a couple of weeks ago. He left, Lyft and being represented by Mike Miller. We know that the Magic declined to pick up his 4th-year team option on his rookie scale contract, and now he's just not being put into the game. And credit to Kobe Price, who after Monday's game against the Charlotte Hornets asked Coach Mosley, what was going on tonight that RJ Hampton just really couldn't get minutes, and Mosley gave this response that I didn't really buy, to be perfectly honest. That they really liked what Terrence gave the defenders a different kind of look, and then Kobe kind of followed that up. He's like, well, what's just been the case like all season long, not necessarily tonight, but RJ just doesn't seem to be able to crack the rotation. And Coach Mosley said it's because we're trying to keep 2 starters on the floor at all times. And my response to that was, again, I didn't believe that. But right now we have arguably 3 NBA guards that are able to play right now in Jalen Suggs, Terrence Ross, RJ Hampton. And sure, Jalen has probably had like the higher peaks this season. But if we're talking about just like a consistency basis, every time they're on the floor, RJ Hampton has been the best, most consistent guard out of those 3. So that just didn't make any sense to me. And people are understandably frustrated and confused about what's going on. And a lot of people think that it must just be a tank job by Mosley, just purposely trying to lose games. And if you look at Mosley's body language, like tonight especially, as the Magic were down 27 in the first half, they cut the lead to 9 in the fourth quarter, and he's going crazy on the sideline, pumping his fist, clapping for these guys. Mosley wants to win these games. Just thinking about this the last couple of days, this is kind of the conclusion that I've come to. If you just take all of the evidence that we have, and I'm building my map. I've got the little thumbtacks. I've got the string going from different points here. You know what I'm saying? I really believe that this, and I'm not the first person to say this. Like I wasn't even sure of this when people first started to say this, but I now am subscribing to this line of thinking. This is over Mosley's head. The way that he's kind of scrambling to find an answer when asked about this, and it just doesn't line up with what Mosley has been preaching in terms of like accountability and leveling up. And if guys are making mistakes, they're going to be sitting next to me on the bench and so on and so forth. Mosley is the kind of guy, if you play well, he's going to reward you with minutes, right? Like we've seen him sit Mo Bamba if Mo Bamba has not been playing well. Bol has basically taken all of Mo Bamba's minutes, and deservedly so because he's been playing very well.
He ripped the starting lineup the other night because they weren't doing anything as far as energy. Like he is holding people accountable. I'll let you continue your thought, and then I also have one more thing to add just to further this.
Yeah, the last thing that I want to say is if it truly is over Mosley's head and he's being questioned by the media, what is he supposed to say? Is he supposed to say, this isn't my decision, it's the front office? Is he going to throw the front office underneath the bus? No, because he would be fired before he could make his butt back to his office. Also, even if that wasn't the case, even if he wouldn't be fired for throwing the front office underneath the bus, that publicly undermines his authority as the head coach in terms of I'm the one making the basketball decisions on a night-to-night basis. I'm the guy deciding who's on the floor, who's not on the floor. He cannot come out and say that to the media. I feel bad for Mosley because if that is the case, he's almost in a position where he has to lie. You can't just come out and say, we decided that RJ Hampton is not part of the future moving forward. The front office doesn't want us, playing RJ Hampton, yada, yada, yada. This is all speculation. I have nothing to go off of. I'm literally just trying to make this make sense at this point. And to me, that's the only thing that makes sense. And I feel for RJ Hampton because he deserves to be on the floor.
Yep. And
I just hope, because we've seen the front office do right by players again and again, I just hope that once we eventually get healthy, because I have to believe that is coming at some point, that you move RJ Hampton to a better situation where he has a real opportunity to earn minutes.
Yeah, fully agree. Another thing I want to add, Jonathan, I'm getting my timeline, okay? I have firmed up the timeline, and real quick, we'll go back to what I was talking about, which is RJ Hampton's game log. He plays 24 minutes and 37 seconds against Charlotte on October 28th. That night is the night that Kobe Price reports that RJ Hampton, the Magic, have not picked up his fourth-year option, and he dropped that. I just checked. He dropped it at like 10:03 p.m. that night. Then from there on out, Jonathan, he plays that's where it kind of feels like a solid thing. 21 minutes against Dallas, then you're 20 minutes, 17, 8, 10, 10, 10. There was a steady decrease in RJ's minutes after the Magic don't pick up the option there.
Which was the game where it like dropped down like super low? Because it was at 20. Was it around the Oklahoma City game?
So against Sacramento, he plays 17 minutes. The game before that, he plays 20. The next game against Houston, he gets his DNP coach's decision. Then, which I left out. So there's that right there, sandwiched between the 17 minutes against Sacramento, the DNP in Houston, and then 8 minutes against Dallas. And those are that's the Oklahoma City. He played 20 minutes.
So essentially, once Jalen came back and was like solidified back into the rotation, that's where we see the minutes for RJ start to drop off. Like the Magic have invested the number 5 overall pick in Jalen Suggs a year ago. Mm-hmm. RJ was kind of like almost like a throw-in, to the Gary Harris and Aaron Gordon trade, and you just have a lot more invested in Jalen Suggs than you do in RJ Hampton.
Yeah,
it sucks. But I can't think of a more realistic scenario of what's happening.
You can't convince me otherwise. I mean, you literally all you have to do is sit down and look on Basketball Reference, RJ Hampton's game log, look strictly at the minutes, and there you go. And then you look at his stats, and you're like, wow, this is a guy that should be playing way more than 10 minutes a game. And it seems like he is at a ceiling of that right now. He keeps hitting it over and over, and I'd be shocked if that changes. Because once these guards are back, Jonathan, RJ Hampton's done. Like, he is not going to enter that rotation. He's not going to crack it at all. Not just a 10-minute limit. I think he gets DNP after DNP until he is finally traded.
It just really, really sucks for RJ. I mean, tonight,
yep.
Let's see, how many minutes did RJ Hampton play tonight? I think you already mentioned 10. This, but yeah, 10 minutes tonight of all nights. That's just like, the writing is on the wall. Like,
it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I feel for RJ because, like I said, if you would have told me a year ago that we were begging for this kid to be on the floor, I would have said no way. And he's just played so well in every opportunity that he's been given this year. And like talking about accountability, like you're preaching accountability to your team, and a guy who is clearly earning minutes for whatever reason is not getting minutes. Like, that accountability talk only goes for so long, and that's got to be creating some kind of, I guess, awkwardness in some pockets of the locker room, for RJ. So I think it's best for the team at this point. It's best for RJ. If as soon as guys are back, you move on from RJ, because like right now, what if something happens to Jalen Suggs or something happens to Kevon Harris or Terrence Ross, like you're going to need 20 minutes out of RJ. So they can't afford to trade him right now, but I just hope that for his sake, he's traded basically as soon as guys get back. And then to talk more about injuries, Paolo Banchero now being out for 4 games, Wendell Carter Jr., now missed the game tonight. And so that's Wendell Carter Jr., Paolo Banchero, Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harris, Moritz Wagner. That's seven rotation players that you're missing. When you would normally have like a 9 or 10 man rotation. Like 70% of the guys that you want to be playing on a nightly basis are out right now. And you have all this positive momentum from beating Golden State, beating Dallas, beating Phoenix. You've got Charlotte, you've got Minnesota. All of a sudden we feel like we're staring down a 4-game win streak. And then they just lay an egg against Charlotte. No Paolo Banchero, right? You're like, okay, well, maybe we'll get him back for Minnesota. No Paolo Banchero. And then Wendell Carter Jr. is out. And like I said earlier, people are just sick and tired of losing, especially just due to the fact that we cannot stay healthy. It's not even that the guys who we think are good aren't necessarily good. We were not even getting the opportunity to see that play out. So I understand why people are feeling just like frustrated and like defeated. And a lot of people are just completely fed up, and I do understand that to a certain extent. But when we sit and we read these articles, that Kobe Price put out, like people are asking for like the media to ask the team questions. Kobe Price literally did this last week. He had an article that came out on Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, and Gary Harris. And when people are talking about, oh, we're purposely holding these guys out, Markelle Fultz had a scan a little over 2 weeks ago that still showed that the fracture in his toe was there, that it was not fully healed. Regardless of how we talked about this, regardless of how the kid feels, you have to protect him from himself. If you have to protect him from himself, rather. If the fracture is still there, you cannot justify putting him on the floor. Odds are the fracture is not going to heal if he's playing 25 to 30 minutes a night on it. And that pain is going to come back. He hasn't been feeling pain for the last several weeks, he says. But until that fracture is completely healed, you cannot put him back on the floor. Talking about Jonathan Isaac, the kid has not played basketball in over 2 years. Yes, it's going to take a long time for him to get back in basketball shape, especially if he's not able to play 5-on-5 every day. This home stretch, I'm sure, was really big for that. But now the team's going to be back on the road, like back on the road, home, back on the road, home. We're not getting a 2-week homestand probably ever again. I don't know that it's ever happened in Magic history, but it's not a very common thing to happen. And then Gary Harris, Kobe outlined this in that article, but this was Gary's first ever surgery. Gary has had other injuries in Denver, like nagging injuries that took him a while to get back from, but he never went under the knife. And some guys, they just heal more slowly than other guys do. And Gary in that article says like he's taking it day by day. Some days he feels great, some days he doesn't feel great. So the fact that or this idea that we're purposely holding these guys out to lose games, I don't necessarily buy that. Especially people are talking about Paolo, like holding Paolo out to lose games. Like, yeah, 3 weeks into his NBA career, we want to piss off our number 1 overall pick because we wanted to try to draft Victor Wembanyama. And Wendell Carter Jr. for that fact. Somebody made this point on Twitter today. 2 of our best players are both signed to Lyft, and we're trying to piss off Lyft by holding guys out that want to be on the floor. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, man. I don't know at what point that you look at training staff. I know we've talked about a lot of these injuries are freak injuries, whatever. It's just so hard, and I'm not going to act, and I've said this before many times on the show, I'm not a doctor.
We have a brand new training staff this year.
Listen, but 7? Well, yeah, what's happening? I get it. Like, guys can be injury prone. I hope Jalen Suggs isn't an injury prone kind of guy. But tonight, like, he starts limping on that ankle, and we're like, oh, here we go, right? And it just seems like, I could already see people getting negative on Twitter about Jalen Suggs and just his.
How do you not love that
stuff.
kid, man? Did you see his post game tonight?
No, I haven't gotten to.
He basically said there was no way. He's like, if I can be on the floor right now, I'm gonna be on the floor. He's like, face busted up, ankle hurting. He's like, you got to tough through it. He's like, this is the NBA. It's a physical game. He's like, I'm just trying to prove to my teammates that no matter what I have to do, I'm going to be on the floor.
It's a physical game, and he's got to be in the top 1% of physical players. That's for sure.
Yeah. Especially at his size. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big Jalen Suggs fans here. Luke, newly a born again Jalen Suggs fan, just absolutely love the kid. I understand it's frustrating. I don't think there's anyone that's more frustrated than us. Like, you should see our group chat every time one of these guys is listed out. Like, Kevin has to each time like talk us off of the ledge because we're just like, I don't know how we're going to get through another game of this. I don't know how we're going to sit through this entire game and then talk about this team for 40 minutes to an hour after we're going to subject ourselves to watching this game. I get it, man. The team has been bad for 10 years. We really, at the beginning of the season, when you see how good Paolo is, you start talking to yourself and do crazy possibilities once we start getting guys back. And it's just like every time you feel like they should be back, it's like, nope, they're pushed off a little bit more each time. And it seems closer each time, but it also seems further away. So I don't know. I don't think that Jamal is actively tanking in the way that maybe last year when we were playing Ignas Brazdeikis, heavy minutes towards the end of the season last year, and there was a kind of some other stuff going on. I just feel like this team is too good to tank. When we're healthy, I feel like this team is going to be too good to tank. And I just feel like if guys really want to be on the floor, and who was it? It was Vagberg. So if you're on Magic Twitter, you're familiar with Vagberg. Shout out to him. He made the point that I think it was Vagberg. Maybe it could be somebody else. So if I'm misquoting Vagberg, I apologize. But I think it was him. Could be wrong. But someone at least tweeted out that if the Magic were really holding out Jonathan Isaac when he was healthy and basically, altered his contract because he did not match that, specific requirements of games played to where his contracts became, partially non-guaranteed and non-guaranteed in the future, the Players Association would be suing the crap out of the Orlando Magic. If Jonathan Isaac felt like he was healthy enough to play and at this point was basically being cheated out of money, the NBA Players Association would definitely have something to say about that. So, yeah, I can't believe that the team is holding guys out on purpose, at least not at this point. Hopefully it's not too much longer. We can get guys back and we can put all of this behind us and we won't have to worry about it anymore, Luke.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It would be nice. All right, we gave a shout out to our patrons a little bit ago. Like we mentioned, they help us pay for Lukey Boy's new mic right there. Every dollar that comes into the Patreon, if you guys are curious, all of it goes back into the show. We don't take a dime out. Everything goes back into doing awesome giveaways for you guys, purchasing more resources for the show, purchasing better equipment, just to try to bring you guys better content. So if you would like to be part of that and help financially support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/the6man-show. We have 3 tiers of benefits that you can choose from. Again, and every little bit is a huge, huge help. We shout out our brand new patrons every episode. So I want to go ahead and shout out our boy Jason Feltman for coming through at the rookie tier. Really appreciate your support, Jason. It means a lot. And then our boy Jamel Miller going from the All-Star to the Hall of Fame tier. So yeah, we shout out all of our brand new patrons every episode that we have them. And then on every episode, we shout out our Hall of Fame tier patrons, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to start with the Court Cousins, and then our boy Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Julio, Bailey, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Franz Goated Fichot, Ryan Singh, The Distract, Mo Bamba Yo Mama, Woot Woot, Pierre A, Migzors, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Lil Penny, Drum, Danimal, Dutto 15, Bobby Skinner, Nate Donnelly, Goaty 93, Teddy Sylvia, Breadhead, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Juan Geraldo, Bill Fulton, Edmund Ligon, Hosea Squealin, Destin for Greatness, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time Mr. TV, Brandon Grace, Chad3045, Joe Rothfuss, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95 Shred, Junior Barus, Half Rican, and Fredo Nation. Thanks to our Hall of Fame tier patrons for everything that you guys do. We literally can't do the show without you guys. Again, you can find us at patreon.com/the6man-show. All right, Luke. As painful as these 2 games were, I do want to talk about them just for a couple of minutes here. So Monday versus Charlotte, obviously, when we smacked the Charlotte Hornets a few weeks ago, they're missing a ton of guys. They're missing LaMelo Ball. They're missing Terry Rozier. In this game, they were missing Gordon Hayward. They were missing Dennis Smith Jr. LaMelo Ball made his season debut a few days before this game against the Miami Heat. In that game, he didn't really look that great. I think he definitely looked a lot better against the Orlando Magic. He hit a few big threes in this game, specifically down the stretch. Luke, this was, I don't want to say it was the most frustrating loss of the season. I think my frustration after this game was kind of like a culmination of everything. RJ Hampton not getting minutes, Paolo Banchero being out, all of the other guys being out. This was a game that you had a chance to extend the win streak to 3 games. And really from the opening tip, the Magic just came out flat. Didn't have a lot of energy, weren't playing with a ton of effort. They got themselves into a hole, and quite frankly, they could just never really climb all the way out of the hole in this one. And, winnable games this season, especially while guys are out, are going to be tough to come by. So when you have an opponent in front of you that you should be able to take care of business and get a W, you've got to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, Luke, in this one, the Magic did not. They lose 112-105 to the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, obviously we don't want to spend too much time on this, but I will say that if there's a game that you can start poorly in and still feel like you got a shot to win the game, it's a game against the Charlotte Hornets. Obviously, just getting LaMelo Ball back into the rhythm, but you just do really dumb things to get yourself down at deficit at half. You're down 13, I believe, at half to Charlotte. In this game, Jonathan, you have, let's take a look here. You have 22 turnovers to their 13. You just can't do it, especially when you've got a guy like Paolo Banchero, your stud, as well as everybody else out. You cannot give Charlotte the go ahead, the jump ahead, the advantage by just turning the ball over with stupid mistakes. You go down 13 at half, and then you win the second half by 6. But obviously that's not enough. You lose the game by 7. Like, it was super infuriating to watch us do something we don't usually do, which is outshoot the other team from the 3-point line. The Magic shoot a better percentage, and they make double the amount of 3-pointers as Charlotte. Charlotte is just able to fend you off long enough to win this game. I really believe that, obviously, if the Magic lost to the clock in this game, when it came to the second half, it just felt like it was a matter of time before the Magic were going to fully chip into this lead and get the lead, win the game. Super frustrating game to be a part of. Like you said, up there for the most frustrating losses of the season, solely because it's a game that, you're able to win 3 games in a row, which you didn't do last year at all. Now is the time you're able to do that. And, you hope for certain things. You hope Paolo's ready to go at the start. But like I said, you just cannot give them the advantage in something as pivotal as the turnover category. 22 to 13 turnovers is just inexcusable against a team like Charlotte.
Yeah, you're outscored 64 to 40 in terms of points in the paint. Any time that you lose to a team where their leading scorer is Mason freaking Plumlee, you did not try hard enough. Like, it just is what it is. Like, Mason Plumlee was making Mo Bamba look bad. He was making Wendell Carter look bad. Yeah, just really, really frustrating performance for the Magic. Kobe Price had an incredible question after the game. He asked, Mosley, he asked Franz, he asked Mo Bamba this question. He asked, at this point with this team, doesn't it seem that the team should be past the point where like effort and energy should be an issue? And to Franz and Mo Bamba's credit, and sort of credit to Mosley. So Mosley danced around this question, and that's really was like his whole post game press conference with Kobe. It was like Kobe asking like hard hitting questions, and Jamal just kind of like dancing around and not really giving an answer. And we've talked about why that was the case with RJ. He can't come out and say the truth if that is the truth of what we suspect to be the truth. But when asked about the effort, Mosley is not going to be the kind of guy to come out and throw these guys under the bus. Steve Clifford, one of the things that I loved about Steve Clifford was he would come to the podium and just flat out say, our best players didn't play well enough. If our best players don't play well, we don't have a chance to win these games. And then he would just get up and he would walk out. And I love that about Steve Clifford. But Steve Clifford is definitely more of an established head coach at this time than Jamal Mosley is. Obviously, this is his first job, second year in the league. One of the things that he cannot do it is start to lose the locker room in any sort of sense or fashion. So although I would love for him to call out the team publicly, he doesn't necessarily need to do that. If he's not doing it publicly, that does not mean that he's not doing it in the locker room, and telling these guys. If we go back to the game against the Boston Celtics, early in the year, where the Magic are making a big run and Cole Anthony misses that dunk, Jamal's asked after the game, what did you think of that play from Cole? Does he just need to lay it up? And Jamal tried to dance around a little bit, and he kind of conceded. He's like, yeah, he just needs to finish that play. Like, it is what it is. But Franz and Mo both said, like, yeah, this team, we should be past the point where effort and energy should never be a question. And to me, that was the most frustrating part. And the Sacramento game is probably the most frustrating loss of the year, and just kind of the fashion that you lost that game. But this is right there for me. Yes, you're down guys. Guys are out of the lineup. But just this team talks about accountability, and everyone's been talking about leveling up. It's not just Jamal. And part of that is just learning the things that you can't do. I understand it's a young team, but they know what they need to do on a nightly basis to win games. And it starts with energy. It starts with effort. Like you said, you can't let Charlotte get out to a start, kind of jump ahead of you to start the game. Magic were just literally never able to get back in this game. The Magic never led. This game was never tied. It was a wire-to-wire victory for the Charlotte Hornets. And yeah, definitely one of the most frustrating losses of the year. Moving on to tonight, Wednesday night, the loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't like to be the guy that like you feel like you lost this game before it started, but with now 7 rotation guys out, no Paolo Banchero, you were hoping to get him back tonight, no Wendell Carter. It was just like, all right, let's see what we can do in this one, And Minnesota, to their credit, got out to a big lead in the first half. They were up as much as 27 points a few minutes before the half. The Magic go on a big run in the second half, in large part, due to Jalen Suggs playing really, really well, able to get the lead down to 9. But D'Angelo Russell, who wasn't playing all that well until the fourth quarter, he starts getting a little bit busy in the fourth. Really put the game away for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, we can talk about Anthony Edwards, especially in that first half. He was incredible. He finishes with 35 tonight, 12 of 20 from the floor, hit 7 threes. Between Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, they get 65 points out of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, their best players were their best players tonight. They were really good. Bol had a decent night. I mean, the career high 26 points, but it's on 21 shots. Still 57% from the floor. I think with Bol, like for me, I would just like to see him get to the free throw line a bit more. But it's so crazy the way that he's able to move around guys. He really doesn't have to take that contact. He's just able to finish over anybody that he wants. Good games out of Franz trying to do all that he could to keep the Magic in this game. A great game out of Jalen Suggs. But yeah, I mean, 16 turnovers tonight to Minnesota's 10. Minnesota did a great job of taking care of the ball. A 16 turnover game for the Magic. Like you'll just kind of take that at this point. But really, for me, Minnesota, just the better team tonight, more talented, shot the ball better than the Magic did. 52% for the Minnesota Timberwolves, 45% from the Magic. Luke, what did you think?
There's certain nights, Jonathan, where you're just gonna get out talented, and the Magic absolutely had that happen to them tonight. You cannot get off to the start that you got off against the Timberwolves. You're down 25 at half, similar to the Charlotte game, but even more magnified because Minnesota is actually a good team, in my opinion, with just a lot of talent. So very frustrating. If you look and go back and watch the beginning of that Timberwolves Magic game, you'll see that the Magic are just fine at the very beginning. And I'm talking very beginning when the score is like 4-4. The Timberwolves are already, and it became a theme throughout the night, the Timberwolves are already settling for perimeter jump shots, but they're not making them yet. But on the other side of the court, the Magic are also settling for jump shots. I believe you had Franz Wagner with a pretty early in the shot clock turnaround jumper that he just clanked. It just didn't seem like there was much urgency. You are down way too many players to not be urgent until the second half. You outscore the Timberwolves by 7 in the second half. You outscored Charlotte by 6 in the second half. There's a trend there. You get a fire lit under you. You don't want to get embarrassed. You know what the score was at halftime against both these teams, and you just turn it on too late. You give them way too early of an edge. The Magic don't get to the free throw line enough tonight. The Magic have too many turnovers. The Magic have done well, and like you even said, like we've tipped our cap to the Magic in terms of being able to get to the free throw line here as of late, even without Paolo. Tonight just weren't able to do that. I think they shot 17 free throws, 16 free throws, something like that. For a team that averages almost 24, I believe almost 25 free throw attempts a game, you're in the top 10 in the league in free throw attempts. You need to get to the free throw line consistently to give yourself a chance, especially in that first half when momentum and tempo and all of those things go into factor and are the most important part of the game. Like that is the most important time to establish momentum, get your home crowd into it. You get into that second half, Jonathan, that home crowd's gone. Like they might be there in the seats, but they're gone. So you just can't do it. You cannot put yourselves in that deep of a hole, especially against a team like the Timberwolves, who maybe the record doesn't imply it. What's their record? Their record is 7-8. I'd take 7-8. But anyway, I think they're better than a 7-8 team. They've got more talent than just being a 7-8 team. You can't do that. You can't get away with what happened tonight. And you also you just don't have the talent to, once you dig yourself a hole, you don't have the talent to come back. Magic get it within 9. But I think we all knew at some point the stars like D'Angelo Russell were we're going to come out and score at least a couple buckets to really, once you put together a run, they're always going to have an answer.
Yeah, I think right now, even when we talked about if we had Paolo, we had Wendell Carter, with this team being as young as they are and still learning to win, the margin for error is so small. When you have this many guys out, the margin for error is non-existent. You have to play 48 minutes of almost perfect basketball if you're going to beat a team, like you mentioned, struggling, but as talented as the Minnesota Timberwolves. And credit to the Magic, like always, they didn't give up. They kept fighting. We saw the second half run like we saw all last year. To the Magic's credit this year, those runs haven't been quite as, they haven't needed to be quite as big to get back into these games. This was like a last year second half run by the Magic where you're down $1 billion and you're able to cut it to single digits and you're just not able to make the deficit any smaller than that down the stretch of this game. Like you mentioned, not enough free throw attempts tonight, 17, missing Wendell, missing Paolo. It's going to drop down a little bit. For me, as good as Franz has been this year, and he's been incredible as of late, he always goes for the finesse finish. And sometimes he tries to make it a little bit too difficult where he could just be absorbing that contact and getting to the free throw line. I think that's going to be the next kind of evolution of his game. When he realizes that and stops settling for some of those shots and starts, all right, I've got 4 free throw attempts on the night. I might be able to get this to 6 or even to 7 if I'm just a little bit more, looking for that contact. I think that's going to be big for Franz, but him and Bull, it just seems like guys are in front of them and then they just dance around them and they're at the rim. So you can't argue with it all the time, but you would like to see Franz, initiate contact at least a little bit more on some of these drives. But like you said, you got out. I think you said out talented tonight. So yeah, that's exactly what happened. We need guys back. That's really what it comes down to. Paolo, the fact that he was trending towards a game time decision and then couldn't play Monday. It doesn't seem like he practiced on Tuesday, and then he was out tonight. Hopefully we get him back Friday. I don't think that Jalen Suggs was like sending shots at anybody with his post-game press conference. I don't know if the other guys on the team even listen to those kind of things. But if I'm Paolo and I feel like I'm like 90, 95%, maybe I was thinking about waiting till I'm 100% to come back. But if I hear Jalen's post-game comments from tonight, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting out there. Regardless of how my ankle feels, I'm getting out there. I don't want Paolo to get hurt. Obviously, that is not the case. That would be literally the worst thing that could possibly happen to this team right now is if he like actually got hurt. But yeah, I want to see some guys back on the floor relatively soon here. And with Paolo, it does feel like every night you have a chance. Like if we had Paolo tonight, even without Wendell, I don't think I'm going into this game like, oh boy, here we go. But that's how I felt going into that game. I was not surprised at all at the result of that first half. I was a little bit surprised at the result of that second half when we started to come back. Because when Taurean Prince fouls Jalen Suggs and gets ejected from the game, I texted you guys, I'm like, this dude knows this game's over. He's just trying to hit the showers before anybody else. He's back there eating his cocktail shrimp in the locker room with his feet up, watching the rest of this game. And then Jalen Suggs is like, wait a minute, I still got a few tricks up my sleeve. And yeah, this game, the second half was fun to a certain extent. The rest of the game really was not fun. And yeah, so 3-4 on the 7-game homestand. I predicted 4-3 before the homestand started. We almost got there. It feels like that Houston game, obviously the Sacramento game could have went either way. Charlotte, Minnesota, you could have picked up a win there. Like the Magic, if you look at everything, the Magic had a chance to go undefeated on this homestand. You should have beat Sacramento. You lose in overtime. We know we should have beat the Houston Rockets. With Paolo and Wendell, maybe you beat Minnesota tonight. We know we should have beat the Charlotte Hornets. I think with Paolo, you probably do beat the Charlotte Hornets. But yeah, it's encouraging to know that most nights, I mean, really at this point, it's like every game except Minnesota tonight didn't really feel like you had a chance. Maybe you had a chance at the end there. And then the New York Knicks game, earlier in the year. Like it's 2 games now out of 15 where you didn't really feel like you had a chance to win.
Yeah.
For a young team, I will take that, Luke. To finish the week, we'll be in Chicago. We won't be in Chicago, unfortunately. The team will be in Chicago Friday night to take on the Bulls. That game starts at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then the Magic will have their first of 2 away games in Indiana on Saturday. That game is going to start at 7 o'clock. Luke, how do you feel about these final 2 games of the week?
Got to get them. Got to get them. And not only do we have to get those, we have to get players. And I am hopeful, probably naively and being overly optimistic, that we can get a Paolo or Wendell back. That would be great, Jonathan. I mean, it's not the end of the world, I will say. The Magic and point differential are minus 2.4 right now. To give you an idea, all the teams below him, it's the Magic at minus 2.4, and there's a huge drop-off. Hornets minus 5, Lakers minus 6.5, San Antonio minus 7.5, Houston minus 8.5, Detroit minus 9.7. To give you guys an idea, last season, the Magic were minus 8 in point differential, which is obviously a ton. So the Magic are right there with teams that are really in the play-in for the most part, like at least in the discussion or even further up in the standings as far as point differential goes. Get this team back healthy, get a couple of wins in the next few. Need to finish the homestand, 3-4. So it could be worse, surprisingly, but it is frustrating looking back and saying Magic could have probably won a couple more of those games, no doubt. You got to make up for it this weekend.
So the Indiana Pacers right now are 7-6. The Chicago Bulls are 6-9. Nice.
Nice.
So yeah, hoping to get a couple of wins here to end the week here, especially if you get Paolo back, you get Wendell. We saw videos today of Cole Anthony taking some jump shots at the Magic shoot-around. So I don't know if you've ever had any kind of core injury, or even if you've had a hard ab day at the gym. If you go out and try to shoot some jumpers the next day, your core stretching from that motion, it's very, very uncomfortable. So I think that Cole is starting to feel a little bit better with that oblique tear, just from my WebMD diagnostic exam of
we're
that
not
video
far
that we
from
saw.
Thanksgiving, if that is the
Right.
timetable we're still looking at. I couldn't believe it. I looked at the calendar and I was like, Thanksgiving's next week, just for the sake of it being Thanksgiving. Christmas decorations coming out soon. Hopefully that means Cole Anthony will be back on the court soon.
I would love some Cole in my stocking this year, if you know what I'm saying.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah. I respect it. I respect it.
Yeah.
I do.
Hopefully he's back way sooner than would be acceptable to get Cole in my stocking. But yeah, some Cole in my Thanksgiving turkey, I guess maybe would be the appropriate. But that wouldn't really make a ton of sense either. Let's just get some guys back. Can we just all agree on that? Can we get, you know what? It's so funny because everyone was on such a high after beating Dallas, after beating Phoenix, and everyone's just really down tremendous after these last couple of games. And it's going to be funny, I think, once we start to get guys back and you win 3 out of 5 games when those guys come back, or you win 3 in a row or whatever, and then everyone's going to be all right, yeah, we're going to be just fine. And I still think that's the case. Yeah. I still think we're going to be just fine. I understand when you're in it, like we are in it right now, and we have been in it for so long, it's tough to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it seems like it's coming. I feel like we've been saying that for 2 years now, since Jonathan Isaac went out, because then it was 6 months later, Markelle Fultz tears his ACL, and it just seems like we've been in this spiral of injuries ever since then. When we were going to the playoffs in 18-19 and 19-20, whenever we would have guys out, whether it was Aaron Gordon with an ankle, or Vooch with an ankle, or Evan Fournier with back spasms, whatever was happening, we were never having these conversations of why are we holding guys out so long? Because in my opinion, it was 1 or 2 guys at a time. It wasn't 7. 7 hits different when it's everybody at the same time and you feel like your whole team is on the bench. So I get why people are frustrated, but I need you to hold on. Heaven is a place not too far away, like my boy Justin Bieber would say. And I think that's going to do it for this episode, if I'm being perfectly honest. We didn't get any wins so far to start the week, but don't forget, when we do, every day after a Magic victory, you can get 50% off your Papa John's online order the next day with code MAGICWIN. For Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You guys have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya!
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!